All right, everybody, welcome back. This is episode 2 for After Hours YYC, hosted at SS 106 Aperitivo Bar. We got the same boys. How's everyone doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Great.
And my usual swell self.
Perfect. So we brought back the Cascajun tequila because I think it was pretty smooth last week, and but we're still waiting for that bottle from Luigi Perry, so hopefully he can bring it here soon. And we do have a wine from Calabria tonight. It's Tenuta Izzolini Ciro Rosso from Nice Wine, nice and smooth, because we want stuff that's smooth so it goes down quicker, huh? All right, so let's talk about let's just do a recap of last week, how beautiful this city is. Calgary is the youngest major city in Canada, and I'm almost over the average here, so I got another. Dan is double the average, we'll just say. And then Alberta has the most engineers per capita. After the Yukon, Calgary was rated as cleanest city in the world by multiple sources. Calgary was also rated the 4th and 5th best city to live in the world. 20% of Calgarians are foreign born, meaning another country, and are also the 3rd most diverse city in Canada. We have low taxes. Salaries are above the Canadian average in Calgary. And Calgary's a beautiful city. So why don't we talk about what we were younger? What sticks out to you guys? Oh, one more thing, actually. The hospital was knocked down what year?
1998.
1990. Thanks, Mark Lobello, for sending me the facts right after. And what sticks out to you guys is in your childhood? What do you remember growing up in Calgary? Anyone can start.
Well, the simplicity, of course, compared to today, but obviously the Stampede.
The Stampede is one thing, yeah. I remember just like Christmas with family. And I would want to be tired. I was 9 years old, and my parents were like, too bad, fall asleep with your cousins, watch them play Sega Genesis, and there would be 20 people in a room, and 2 guys would be playing, and we would watch. What
type of Sega Genesis?
I don't know, I was just watching.
I heard you were a Sega champion later.
Maybe later in life. I hope nobody knows what that means, but maybe the Italians get that joke. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, man, just simple things like growing up in the Northeast, going to Bishop McNally, very multicultural. Just Calgary was always a good city. I played soccer all my life, but even being a kid playing hockey on the street, my parents calling me in, I'm like, I don't want to come in. Then I'd go in and I'd cry because I did cry once, okay? I'd cry because my hands were frozen cold. I don't know. It was just that childhood was good. We were more active, I believe, than.
Oh, definitely. I remember playing.
Well, so your childhood was a longer before ours.
My computer was a Commodore VIC-20. You guys have never heard of that. Don't worry about it. But
Can you say that again? What was that?
it was a Commodore VIC-20.
Okay. Sounds like an old boat car or something.
Well, kind of. It had instead of a hard drive, it had a cassette tape drive. And you had to write all your own code and everything. It wasn't complex.
It wasn't 8-track or 8-track?
No, like a little cassette player. Yeah. No, it was interesting. But we used to play outside all the time. You'd play football. You'd be riding your bikes to your friend's house and stuff. Like I remember when it transitioned to everybody playing like online video games and stuff like that. I was a much older kid then, like a old man. But it was different. You used to go out and do that. You didn't have a cell phone. Like kids now have cell phones and stuff. It was different. I think you're right, though. It was a lot simpler.
But even neighbors, like I don't remember my parents locking the door when I was really young, maybe as I got older. And I lived in Whitehorn, and you'd go outside and you knew every neighbor. It was like everyone was on the street playing. There was kids everywhere. Now when I go in these new subdivisions, you don't see anybody. Well, this year especially, but even before this, you don't see that anymore, right?
Well, it was the era like the banks were closed on the weekend, right?
Well, malls
the liquor stores we had provincial liquor stores back then, so. We weren't buying the booze, but the liquor store closed on Friday night. That's it. No booze again till Monday, right? So
then you used to go order your beer, and it used to come down a conveyor belt and come out to you.
And people had more kids, maybe because the kids were outside playing, so the parents had more time to, make more kids.
Definitely.
or kids were cheaper then.
Maybe that too.
There's no Monsanto in the food yet either. So.
Well, groceries were a lot cheaper. Groceries were a lot cheaper back then. I remember $100 can fill up your grocery cart. Now $100 can barely fill up a basket. Or even a bag.
Oh yeah, four bags for $100 these days, right?
That's why I feel that like sometimes from Southern Italy, the way I grew up in Cali, growing up here is the food is very simple. like pasta's cheap, tomatoes are cheap. Like tomato sauce, you make a sauce, it lasts forever. And now we're so privileged, we get to eat all these. You know, you get to eat a big tomahawk steak, or just everything is just, we live simply.
Did you guys ever grow up with those lines like my brother and I would share at dinner, and my parents would be like, they used to feed like 10 people.
Yeah, of course.
It's from the school of I walked in the snow uphill to school both ways.
Or it's like, yo, you're gonna eat your food? I don't want this. Do you know how hard I worked? You know, there's the Robert De Niro, there's the movie at Bronx still. You know how many times I do the bus route to pay for this meat?
Well, nowadays, I remember my dad would give me a look. If I don't eat that food on that table, I'm going to get a backhand.
Oh, yeah.
Well, nowadays, here's my wife. I love you, honey. She would make 3 or 4 different meals just to please all our kids. And
Oh, no.
What are you doing here?
No, we
But I
had
guess-
to finish everything on our plate too. So you learn to eat the things you don't like first, so that you know you'll have room for the things you like at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I was more picky now, and then maybe my stomach would look a lot better. But hey, man, a skinny restaurant owner doesn't shows a bad representation of the restaurant, right? I gotta have a belly. Don't tell my wife that, all right?
The food's good here.
Tell you
Nice
what,
plate of gnocchi, huh?
with logic like that, how can a guy go wrong?
So now that we're talking about our childhood growing up, I guess Dan was way before us, but do you feel the Calgary is a diverse city? And what are some examples of diversity that you have experienced?
Yeah, like Calgary, I mean, when I was growing up, the whole class was made, it was like a representation of the UN. Like there was somebody from everywhere. Like we went to Catholic school, so we didn't have any Muslims. Like everybody had to be Christian or Catholics, right? But outside of that, everybody was represented. We had Asian people, brown people. I was the black guy.
and you went to
for the
Francis,
longest
right?
time. And I went to Francis, yeah. And
Same
Francis,
one.
the same thing. There's quite a few people that showed up in that place, and everybody integrated well. I mean, even years later in life, we'd go to like Vegas. People would say they knew we were Canadian because of how mixed up we were.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, you never see that here. And we'd be really mixed up. We'd look around like, oh yeah, we're all different.
And the funny thing is, because Calgary gets labeled as not a diverse city, right? So it's just, we've seen diversity, and we want to show the world, for all those people watching all over the world, that,
It
we
is
are
substantially more diverse now though than it was like in the 80s. Like growing up, I didn't have a black guy in my class till grade 10, right? And I'm pretty sure every classroom in the city has black kids in there now, So it took its time. It was behind like Toronto and Montreal, I'm sure.
But that seems like it's the Catholic system. Me, I went to the public system, even though
That's fair.
Me too.
I was born and raised Catholic. Whatever school was close to home, my parents sent me. So the public system went to a lot, and it was very diverse. There was all colors, all races, all religions, and it was great growing up like that because I got to meet so many different cultures and learn from them as they learned from me. And I was the only Italian there. They all knew me because my name stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Who's gonna know how to read Giuseppe? What's that? I wish I owned a pizza. They should pay me money.
It was when I went to Crescent in the 80s, and it was, I think, the biggest ESL school in Calgary at the time, and everybody was from somewhere else there. And when I was,
even in the 80s.
yeah, that would have been, I graduated in 85, and we had a massive, like, especially there were a lot of Vietnamese kids there then. It was extremely diverse, and even on our teams, like on football teams and stuff like that, like there were kids from everywhere there, and it was I started working that summers when I started working at the steel foundry, and when I worked there, I was like one of a handful of white guys there. Everybody was from somewhere in Asia or India and Pakistan and stuff like that, and like people figured it out. Like I had one guy who he could only say, we use this product called Ramex, and it was for relining the furnaces at night, and every day I would get there and he would look at me and he would just go, 2 skids Ramex anytime, boss. And that was the only English he knew. And him and I would sit there, we were the only guys working on that shift. We'd sit there and eat lunch together, smile and nod. And if it wasn't 2 skids Ramex anytime, boss, he didn't say a word to me. But you figure it out. And so I think it is more diverse now because I see friends and I have nieces and nephews and stuff in our school and stuff. And I think that, I don't know if it's more diverse, but I think that the groups in the schools maybe blend together better now than they used
People are
to.
maybe moving within the city. Like, so I'm assuming in the 50s, well, not I'm assuming, a lot of Italians came, Germans came before that. And then
not too much before.
It is in eras though, the way you're talking. Like,
You're right,
it's
then there was
in so
another
many
push of
different
Italians in the 70s, like when my dad came.
and that's when the Caribbean showed up. Yeah,
And then there was a push,
In the 80s
I think, of
was
Chileans because the
Vietnamese
Pinochet
and
era, right? When did the Chileans come, maybe?
That was in the early 70s. Wasn't a coup in 72?
I don't know much about that. All the Chileans are going to get mad. I just know, I think it was the
Don't get
70s. Because Uncle Hector was telling me playing soccer with my dad in the 70s. Uncle Hector, huh? And then the El Salvadorians came, right? The El Salvadorians came. I know a lot of El Salvadorians. My high school had a lot of Filipinos, right? They all had a karaoke machine. It's a good thing. They like to sing. I don't know. And I just grew up. My high school was so diverse. But you're right. There was no Muslims. There were some Arabs, though. There's some Christian Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But there were in public school.
In the public system.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And what I felt like everybody got along.
I thought so. Yeah.
Everybody.
absolutely, we got along. Like, it was really cool. In fact, it felt cooler then than it does now sometimes, right?
Well, because maybe their parents, all the people that came back then are like, oh, we're here in a better country. We're here to work. I don't know. Maybe just people live simpler.
I think that there was less going on too, and everybody just, these are the kids I go to school with. These are the kids I hang out with. These are my friends.
Like I always say, my son is, his mom was born in Mexico. I'm a first generation Italian. I'm happy I wanted to go to France so bad because, all of my Italian cousins, all my Italian friends, and I'm actually happy I didn't. No offense to the Italian community, but because I grew up with so many different mixed people.
You wouldn't have made the football team. That's why.
That's okay. Maybe I would have made the soccer team though. And then I went to, and you know what? I would not want my kid to go to a school with all one race. I hope that the school he goes to is going to be mixed.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully the area we live in, or, I'm happy the way I grew up.
Where did you go, Lacombe?
No, McNally. A lot of my friends went to Lacombe.
McNally.
Trevor went to Lacombe. That's the guy that doesn't show up. So
Lasers.
is that what they were? The Lasers?
I think so.
I know that we're the Timberwolves. The Browns. Francis was the Browns.
Yeah.
Everybody was an L.
We were I went to at Lester B. Pearson, Patriots.
That's 52nd.
It was new probably when you went.
It must have been pretty close to really new then.
It was attached to the wave pool, right?
Yeah.
It had like
The
a plus
library and
15 to
stuff.
the wave pool. Like,
They
that's
used
like
to
the
use the
coolest high
library
school.
and the gym and stuff for the school, didn't they?
Well, does anyone go to that library? They probably go to the library downtown. I haven't been in that one. It looks
Either
pretty
have I.
expensive.
It's
huh?
a pretty spiffy looking building.
It's closed, isn't it?
Yeah.
maybe,
And that was one of the things that would have reopened if they had changed today.
Yeah.
So I think we can say that Calgary's a very diverse city.
Oh, I think
Diverse
so.
mindset.
I can say
diverse.
that.
And you know what Nigel was saying? I think, like you said, you go to Vegas or you go anywhere, LA, anywhere like that, you go. You're right. If you saw yourself walking around with your group of friends, you'd even think it was weird sometimes, I think, because you don't fit in those places.
Yeah,
Like, it is so weird.
And I think sport too. Me playing soccer all my life, I met a lot of different people.
You know how it manifests itself a lot is in food, right? A lot of people know what dim sum is. A lot of people know what pho is. A lot of people know pasta. Like, we know everything. Like, we're foodies like crazy in the city as it is. I think like some of the best restaurants
Yeah, we have a very good.
are in
food
town. But it's a foodie city, and like people know their way around the world by diet, right?
scene. Now that you mention that, I remember when I was in school, my mom. Now, if I would get mad because she made me these Nutella sandwiches all the time, and I'm like, "Why are you making like I don't want a Nutella?" I would complain, and now I'm like, "Make me a Nutella
That's
sandwich."
funny. And my mom's like, I'm not putting chocolate on your sandwich.
And then everybody's like, "What are you eating? What is that? What is that?" I'm like, "I don't know."
You know how
It's
much Nutella costs?
You know what I think it was? If she put it in a bun, it was good, but like soggy bread. Sorry, sorry, Mom. You're a great cook. She's very good. Yeah. So now, this might be a little different for us compared to Dan, but what music do you remember growing up with in the city?
So when I was going out most of the time, it was when everyone thinks of hair rock, like hair bands and stuff. It would have been Def Leppard, all of those. A little bit leading up before that would have been like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that 70s into the 80s. But most of the stuff I remember growing up was the 80s stuff.
Not like Freddie Mercury.
I do remember that.
Freddie Mercury.
But when I was in high school, like Van Halen, those guys were big at that time. But I don't really listen to that very often anymore. It's I have some.
You
friends
look like you're a guy that listens to like trap music, huh? Or-
I do. I have the weirdest or iTunes collection.
It's eclectic.
It is, yeah. No, it's like everything from classical music up to like house music or whatever.
Of course.
It's just I listen. It all depends. Just put you in a mood.
Joe, what did you listen to?
As a kid or growing up?
Yeah, growing up as a kid, Vanilla Ice. I don't know.
Yeah, Vanilla
First,
Ice.
as a kid, Italian music.
It was in the house. That's all you heard.
That's all I heard. But no hip hop music.
Yeah.
Started with like the old school NWA.
We even DJ'd together. Remember?
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
we did. Was it a baptism or wedding? Because your dad was
Weddings.
a local DJ for the Italian community.
Weddings and baptisms.
Yeah, and we used to use cassettes.
That was your first gig?
Now you use a laptop. No, he did. I helped him out, right? I remember that.
Yes.
And then we went to Denny's on McKnight at like 2 a.m. after, right?
That's an icon with the city. After the club or after
Yeah.
weddings
And
Denny's
Denny's
something
McKnight
to-
specifically, like that one, that was
And You
fire
and
for a long
Me.
time.
That one. Even the
Golden
one on
Inn.
16th,
Yeah, Golden Inn, you and
16th and
Me.
19th was, we used to go there a lot to that Denny's there. And
Oh, yeah,
there,
we're very-
there used to be a Humpty's. There was two. There was one on 36th Street by Marlborough
The one in McLeod, right?
and the one on McLeod at 26th
Did
Avenue.
that close,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one?
Yeah, I think they're both gone. I think the one on 36 is long gone, but I think that one on 26 closed a year or two ago.
So if you had to pick, if we're out partying tonight and you have to pick one place to go eat at 2 a.m, not saying that, Dom, come open the place, we want some pasta, but if you could go anywhere else but here,
Well,
where
ri-
would you go?
Right now we're a bit limited, so I would say probably because those places can't be open. Past
But if
10,
they
same
were,
thing.
just say, if everything was back to normal,
2
we were
a.m.
drinking and we like needed some food at 2 a.m.
If it's 2 a.m., I'm probably not looking for the best food in the world if I'm out. A popular place late at night is the A&W on 17th Avenue at 4th Street.
I was surprised they put an A&W on 17th. You know, it's like
Have you been there at 3 in the morning?
it's jammed. It's
Yeah.
jammed.
Yeah.
So it's McDonald's, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
a vibe,
the,
yeah.
there's the McDonald's on Stephen Avenue. It's the same deal.
Oh yeah, the same thing. Yes.
But they take all the chairs out after
Yeah,
like
yeah.
6 o'clock because they don't want any of the locals hanging
Yeah,
out in
yeah.
there.
And then you see people complaining, oh, we want to make more money, so they replace them with computers.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
see
yeah.
when you go in there, you got the little
Yeah.
machines.
Oh yeah, no.
And
The
it's
kiosks.
all, and then everyone's drunk. They don't know how to use it. They're getting upset. I would probably go, if I wanted to hang out longer and not just eat, I'd probably go to the Golden Inn.
Oh yeah.
What's
yeah.
the other one that was
You
on
and me.
Electric?
Oh,
No, on Stephen Ave. Not Stephen Ave, Electric, 11th.
11th Avenue that was
Oh,
open
Singapore
late.
Sound.
Singapore
Singapore
Sounds,
Sounds.
yes.
Yeah.
But there
that-
you're going. If you just
That's
want
a
to,
great vibe.
if you want to still
You
go
keep the party going, yeah.
Well,
Dancing
you
on
were
the
there for
table.
the food.
Yeah.
Every night, 2 o'clock, it turned into a dance club for one song.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone would be up dancing on their chairs. Song ends, everybody
You know
gets
what's
back
funny
up.
though? Like,
That was still that way 2 years
I
ago.
went to Singapore Sam's when I was playing under 12 selects because, or was it 12 selects? Because Peter was the owner and his son Justin and Sean. Then we played soccer. So Justin was on my team. So we went there for like a family dinner when I was 12. I thought it was but now going at 3 a.m. on a Saturday is a little bit different than.
You know, though, you do find how your view changes. A friend of mine, a guy you know that comes in here fairly regularly, we grew up together from the time we were little kids, and he goes, there's a, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, Chinese food restaurant on 17th Avenue in Forest Lawn, maybe Far East, maybe? And when we-
Leda, maybe?
No, it was like it's the one that has the big, like, the very pronounced decorations on the front, really big, wide, 2-story building on the north side, but
This is Southeast.
yeah.
There's a lot of good little restaurants there.
Oh, yeah,
People
no.
don't think because it's like international
Yeah,
avenue.
there's a good
I wish they would
Portuguese
pick it up a
place
little more.
there.
Maybe.
Yeah,
There used to be the Portuguese place Mimo's that shut down. They were open 35 years. We used to go there all the time.
Yeah.
It
No.
shut down during this last pandemic. I hope everyone can stay alive now and
Hang
just
on.
keep it going. Hang on, man. We're almost there, right?
But with that restaurant, he was talking about when we were kids, we used to go there, and that was a fancy place to go when you were a kid. Like, it was
Yeah.
sit-down restaurant, family restaurant kind of thing. And he goes, I was by there the other day. He goes, man, it looks dumpy. He goes, it sure has changed. I go, no, it hasn't changed at all, man. It's the exact same as it was
You
when we were a
got
little
bougie,
kid.
yeah.
Yeah, your opinion of what is fancy changed.
What was the Italian restaurant in Renfrew when we were kids? Giovanni's?
Giovanni's.
Oh,
yeah, that was
yeah.
the Migliarese family. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
that's
right.
right. That's right.
Uncle Angelo, that guy.
Football,
Man.
he was the football coach. Yeah, we spent a lot of time there.
They used to be at my house twice a week.
Oh, wow.
You know,
See,
those
man,
guys.
it's
Small,
delivering.
it's a small world, yeah.
If you want
Yeah,
to go further
Giovanni's,
back, before
jeez.
us, there was an Italian place called Cafe dello Sport. And that's where Ralph Klein used to hang out, by the St. Louis.
Oh.
It's in, there's still an Italian flag on the building. What's the street? I don't know the exact. Yeah, East Village, 8th Ave. There's a Cafe dello Sport right by the St. Louis. And all Ralph Klein would sit there and play Passatella, which is like an Italian card game where you drink a lot, man. He was in the community. Ralph Klein used to hang out with
I remember my dad telling me stories about going, drinking there and seeing Ralph Klein come in there. All
Yeah,
drunk
and he was like,
after
but he would
seeing
hang out with anybody. Didn't matter
Yeah.
if you wore a suit. Didn't matter if you wore like we should all feel like that. Why is it a suit doesn't make you a man or a woman?
I think people are pretentious, though,
Where
right?
are the Ralph
That's
Kleins?
a big part of it.
the
And
world?
Calgary, because it's a money city, then the facts going down, right? Higher salaries. We've attracted the people who love money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
In the country. And so it's changed the energy a little bit, right?
Well, we talked about possessions, like what's important, how much do you need to live, and all
Right.
that, and people's view of it is skewed, I think.
But do you think though, like the premier, which was he was the mayor, then the premier, which everyone, I think people would love to have him back. Everyone misses him. There's some people that the times have changed, I get, but most people are like he gave us checks, the Ralph bucks. But if a premier did that now, got drunk in a bar and needed help taking a cab home, oh my God, could you imagine the
cell phones.
cell phones would be out. Like just maybe that's what ruined it a bit, because let these people be. You can't be that normal because you're gonna get shamed for being normal.
Yeah.
We were talking about this the other night, though. Is that you're right? I think the cell phones. That's part of the problem. Is that you know somebody. If I walk out and I see three guys pounding one guy, do you whip your phone out and take a video of it, or you go over and try to stop the fight?
Well,
You go there and stop the.
Yeah,
try to stop.
yeah,
Of course.
but nobody does. Like, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I'm happy I graduated high school and even like went through college before the cell phones had cameras.
Yeah.
Right. 'Cause there's
But
no
you
record.
know what made
Yeah.
those fights popular on phones? World Star.
World Star. Yeah.
Hey,
Everybody
we have
wants to be on
we have
World Star.
Antonio here filming for us. His dad owns SS Goldsmithing. So if you need some gold, I was just wondering, Antonio, if you could check the camera, because last week it's good still. Perfect.
Thank
Look
you,
at that, huh?
Antonio.
So now you guys can see our beautiful faces, not just stare at a picture.
The picture looked good.
Yeah. Well, if there's a picture of us, would it look better? Maybe. Huh? Yeah. All right. So yeah. What music? Now let's talk about celebrities and comedians. We talked about this a bit last week, but it never made the recording. But how comedians can say stuff, they kind of push agendas, and they say stuff that, like, let's talk. Like, we could go back into Eddie Murphy, and then what do we say today? Andrew Dice Clay. And then
Richard Pryor's on that list, right?
Richard
Yeah.
Pryor.
He was,
Richard Pryor was
a
the
legend. Yeah.
George Carlin.
George Carlin. So
George
George
Carlin,
Carlin, now I watch some of his stuff, and it's like I'm listening to a politician, like a telling us what's
Well,
going on.
you're listening to the anti-politician.
Yeah, the anti-politician,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
it's like they're teaching us stuff, and you look at Dave Chappelle, like Sticks and Stones. I thought it was funny, but
Yeah.
according to Rotten Tomatoes, it got what 0%
From the critics.
from the critics, and then it got 98 by the.
Very interesting though, if you pay attention to like the discrepancy these days between what the critics have to say, what the people have to say.
And maybe that's why all this cancer culture and stuff is because the critics are saying stuff, but the people are like, I love this. Like, Dave Chappelle, he took off to Africa. Like, the whole thing just seems like, it seems little like you try not to go down that rabbit hole, but, you know, he took off to Africa, didn't tell his family, he came back. He had an amazing show, but maybe the pressure, he didn't follow the agenda, they didn't want.
I think there were a lot of things. I think that maybe his life got away from him a little bit. I could see that.
He
happening.
owned it. He's talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
he
right?
has several times.
And his
And
show
he got-
was.
He went on Oprah, he went on
That interview with
And he got
Oprah
screwed
was,
on his contract.
off.
You know which one you got to watch? He's on the Actors Studio. It's like,
Yeah.
the Actors Studio with Dave Chappelle, and you listen to the stuff he says, and you're like, oh wow, like
It's a smart man.
it's sometimes it's I don't know, it's crazy.
You know,
Hollywood's a little crazy.
I think a lot.
Charlie
of the times-
Murphy.
What did the hand say to the face?
but like, I wish Eddie Murphy could come back and do a Raw and Delirious. Like we were talking about Coming to America too. I
Yeah.
was so excited, and
Yeah.
it's let's just say watch it for yourself and see.
You make your own call.
You make your own call.
But you know what it is? I think that they can say what they see to be the truth, and it's spread off as humor. Whereas, like, if you tried to say it and you didn't have the right delivery and you said some of the things they say, you're going to get labeled a lot of bad
You're
things.
just controversial.
Well,
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
It's like if you say a joke, sometimes it's like it's quick. Like you say something after like, but Dave Chappelle's talking about Anthony Bourdain killing himself, and then he goes talk about his friend. That what happened? I think his wife left him. He was educated. He had all this money. Then he was working at Foot Locker. He's like, this guy didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
And Anthony Bourdain killed himself. So he makes you think a little bit, right? Just
It's deep on two fronts, right?
It's very deep actually. If you think he's telling a joke, but it makes you think a little bit. I think they do that on purpose, right? So we can talk about it on a podcast.
Or even some of the comedians today, like Sam Tripoli, Ari Shafir, or even Joey Coco Diaz with Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
They lay out some truths, and some of their podcasts we listen to.
Yep.
It's very interesting.
I'd say Joey Diaz might be the closest to those old school guys in saying whatever he wants and doesn't
Definitely.
care. And is that well? I saw though they were talking Bill Burr. They were coming after him because of all the things he said at the Grammys and stuff like that. And
Well, it was a guy that went off on was it the global Richie Gervais? Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais, yeah.
Ricky Gervais.
But he keeps getting
That
invited
was
back.
awesome.
Yeah, actually, if you've seen some of those celebrity faces, maybe some of it's true.
Tom Hanks' face, that was
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah, it's well. Look,
It's weird though because they bring him in and he's
That's
like
what I
he's shaming. It's just it's strange stuff, you know. And like in the world of Pizzagate, you guys know this Pizzagate.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and like because Epstein's real, you can't completely dismiss Pizzagate.
you
you
can't
know?
dismiss anything. It's just
So
the thing is, though. I feel like we talked about this last week. Is people get like they see something, they get tunnel vision. Just maybe read other stuff. Maybe don't believe it, but just open your mind to other stuff. And even we talk about with the mainstream media, with COVID, with anything. Just kind of try to open up your mind a little bit, right? And
open mind is a huge thing.
now when we
Look
talk
for
about
yourself. Yeah.
comedians, you know who was a good Canadian comedian was Russell Peters.
Yeah, he was great.
Russell Peters made us laugh.
Yep.
But now, can you say those jokes? He can.
He still does.
He still does. Yeah.
He still sells the same jokes.
There was another guy from Montreal. He's a brown guy too. Sugar Sammy. Some of his stuff.
Yeah,
is-
yeah.
They're really good, right? We
Yeah.
have. Look, isn't the Weekend from Canada? Drake.
Toronto. I think he's from Toronto. Yeah.
There was a. I don't. Nobody really knows this, but the guy that produced the Weekend, and he produced, I think, some of Kanye's music, is actually from Calgary. He went to Lacombe. His name's Ilangelo. He's an Italian kid.
No
he
way.
doesn't live in Calgary anymore, but nobody knows this. There's talented people in this country and in the city. There's a lot of.
The guy who started Uber was from Calgary too, wasn't he?
I
Was it
didn't know
Uber?
that.
Oh, I don't know that.
I know Skip the Dishes was Winnipeg, but I don't know if I really like Skip the Dishes.
Yeah.
Taking my.
I was just gonna say.
Maybe we should get a fact check from Antonio over there.
Hey, you want to look that up? He's.
Want to look that up for us, Antonio?
I think Skip the Dishes is because now there's this new one, Neo Financial. It's the same owners of Skip the Dishes. While they sold, now they came here.
Starting
and
it up.
they started Neo Financial in Calgary. There's a lot of places that a lot of stuff gets started in the city, right? So
Well, it's like we were talking last week. We have an educated city. We have actually a really good set of schools here. Like it could be. I think you were saying this should be where MIT is, kind of thing.
And to give it some credit, like SAIT is a pretty good institution.
It is. No,
It's really good.
No,
right?
that's what I'm saying. We have
Yeah.
fantastic schools. Yeah, yeah. But we could be like, well, they're talking with this merger with Rogers and Shaw that they'll set up a tech center here. But
when I graduated from SAIT in 2006, it was 98% that you would get a job after you graduate. Now it's probably a little different now, but
I should go to SAIT now.
yeah. Well, like we were talking, like everyone's against, there's an attack on Alberta with oil and gas and stuff. But here's an example: how does a guy, like I have a customer, good friend, we became friends. You at 46, at 44, you lose your job as an engineer, and then it's 2 years later, you're 46. What do you want that guy to go back to school and become something else?
Right. Code.
Like it's hard, and then that's why they look to leave, and we have to try to keep these educated people here. We have to because we have. It's like we said. Yeah, like we're getting well. Dan, we're getting older.
I don't have to make it much longer.
But Dan makes some great cocktails. Dan's gonna have a bar soon. You'll see. It's gonna be the best cocktail bar in Calgary.
I wouldn't go quite that far. It'll be okay.
That's when people are good. They always, they're modest.
The thing I wonder about, you're saying like people have to leave here because they can't find it. I was thinking about this on the way here. How much money did the federal government pump into Ontario to save the auto industry over the last few years?
Not
How
as
much,
much as
how much
Alberta.
do they pump into Quebec?
Yeah.
How about what happens at
Bombardier,
Bombardier?
yeah.
But let's go with
Or
cars for a
SNC
second.
Lab. That's how they
What do all the cars in Canada burn for fuel?
Gas, diesel.
So you're going to save the jobs that make the cars that make the downline of carbon terrible, but you're going to cut off the money to go where the gas comes from. It doesn't. If you're saying, well, we're only going to buy into the future of non-carbon-based
They're
cars.
fighting for Line 5, though.
Yes.
Yeah,
hopefully.
we're gonna have a comeback. We're gonna be stronger than ever.
Well, that's because that'll get them oil in the east, though.
We're gonna get in that a little later about how what's gonna save Canada from all this spending that our beautiful liberal government is doing at the moment.
All the governments.
All the governments. Yeah, you're
And
right. That's all
we
the
got to put
governments.
pressure. Like there can't be an election without a budget being released. Like, it's
We were
ridiculous.
talking about that before.
How many years has it been since he released
Well,
one?
name a
2.
name a country that's in the top 10 of the economies of the world that doesn't have a budget for 2 years.
Well, name a G country that has like a 1% rollout of the vaccine. I mean, we got some piss poor metrics these days.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we're screaming to the top on the wrong side of
I
everything.
don't get it.
So if you could, what do you feel Calgary's known for? If you had to pick one thing or two things, what do you think people see us as? Let's talk on the positive note, not what they might think.
Let me say this. So you have it down. Like everyone knows us for like Stampede in the Mountains, right?
Yep.
But like, I think our restaurants rank. I mean, I travel around the place. It's easy to find a good restaurant in Calgary.
Yeah, we have a very good food
And
scene.
it's not that easy to find good restaurants in other cities. I find I struggle like to just find. I can walk anywhere in this place.
I
and
feel like the States
it's a good restaurant.
doesn't have that. Like when you go to America, you're thinking, oh man, there's so
No,
much.
they're
The
not.
food's not that good in
No,
restaurants. There.
no
There's
insult to the
pockets,
Americans,
yeah.
but they're not refined like us. Their palate is not the same.
No, it's
I
different.
mean,
Like there's a lot of like bigger chain stuff, but we have a good food scene.
it's
in
platter
Canada, and-
food, right? They serve you your meal on a platter in a lot of places.
Yeah. Oh, there's a place down in the south called Cracker Barrel, and I had the country boy breakfast there.
Like the south in the States.
in Alabama,
Yeah.
yeah. And it came out on 3 plates that you would serve a turkey on. And that was
too
my
much.
breakfast. Yeah, that was delicious.
No, if you do a nice platter with your group of buddies, it's different. Right?
It was just me.
Yeah, no, you're right. We do have a lot. We have a very good food scene, and I hope we don't lose it in the city. The good places we'll keep fighting. We'll keep doing it. We're not.
I hope so.
It got impacted hard though.
Yeah. Well, and my concern is 6 months from now, when all the rent subsidies are gone and people.
Well,
are
we just
starting
gotta be back to normal. No more new normal. We gotta
Agreed.
go back to normal.
We need the hours. We need the
We have
seats.
to. We need
Yep.
to keep.
Yeah, but you can see it. They're threatening this third wave nonsense.
know.
Like,
I know.
we had an opportunity today to open more.
I
Yeah,
had a
we
feeling
didn't.
that was gonna happen.
Yeah, I kind of did
Yeah.
too.
It's like every time they're about to open the next stage, all of us cases go up, right?
Well, not only that, they also bring in a new rule. Because
Yeah, yeah.
when they first came out with this staged reopening system, it was hospital. How many people are in the hospital, that's all that really matters. And then we hit the first one, well, now the R number's important, and we have to pay attention to this. Because we're still below the hospital cases, but they say we're trending in the wrong direction.
Right.
Yep.
And they don't want to give it to us and take it back. But
And it's funny.
That's what they say.
yeah,
Did you guys watch today? They were so today's what, Monday, March 22nd.
22nd, yeah.
22.
So they were getting asked, like after they ask questions, and I feel like sometimes those questions are just set up, but the questions were all about, will we go back? Will we scale back? Like, does the media want another lockdown? I think
Yes,
they get
they
more
do.
hits. They get more hits because we pay attention to it. Even though you don't want to, if you have a business, you have to pay attention.
It's
because
a train wreck though,
Yeah.
right? There's a certain
That's
level
it.
of misery. Like the more normal we get, there's no story there.
That's like, what was it? Blood cells, right? You lead with it.
So now that we're talking about, well, what do you think, first, before we get into this COVID stuff, what do you think Calgary's known for? Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Stampede, mountains.
Stampede's great.
I would
It's
say
so
for
good.
Banff and the mountains, though it's Banff and mountains is known worldwide,
Yeah.
especially for their vitality air.
See, I think here, yes, that's right.
You know what? My fiance moved from Hamilton, and she goes to the mountains more than me. She loves it. She's originally Mexican, but she loves the mountains. She's like, that was a big thing for her to move here, was the mountains.
Yeah,
right?
or anytime I have family, like I remember being a kid when that was the only time we went to the mountains is when family came out from the east. We would go to the mountains. And I see all these people that are like out hiking every weekend and stuff, and I rarely go. And it's too bad. It's like I have family who lives by the ocean down in California and stuff, and they say they never go to the ocean.
You know
right?
what?
And it's,
We're gonna do a hike,
too-
buddy.
too
We're gonna
big.
do an easy one. Grassy
go.
Lakes. Have you
Grassy
done
Lakes?
Grassy Lakes?
We do that, or we could
I'm
do-
a simple hiker. I
We
can't
could
do
do,
the
we could do
fancy stuff.
Prairie Mountain. It's an easy one.
Grassy Lakes. I did it with my son
Relatively
when he was
easy.
2 months
It's not
old.
bad.
It's a mountain.
He can carry me.
But I had my son in the thing, and then we went up the easy way, and then I'm like, this was easy. Let's go down the hard way. I'm like, it was a little harder with my son. I'm like,
Your son in like one of those,
one of
little
those
reverse
like,
backwards
yeah,
things.
that
and
back things,
It's
yeah.
probably
He
hard.
loves
It's
it.
probably
He loves
hard
it.
with
When we go
sandals.
hiking, he loves it.
It's probably hard with sandals and socks and a latte too.
And a gold
The,
chain
mo-
around
the
my
modern man. Yeah.
yeah, this guy.
Not that bad.
Stretch it
It
out
wouldn't
to
be
him.
Starbucks. It'd be SS 106.
Gonna
coffee,
stretch it out to a
or
man
some little
bun.
coffee shop. Maybe.
I gotta say, one of the greatest things I have. You talk about only visitors come. I love when people visit Calgary and have never seen the mountains. I love being the guy to take them out.
It's
there,
amazing when
right?
they see it, yeah.
You know, and it's the funniest thing because everybody stops at the cement plant to take pictures because it's like the first view you get. It's like
Black
no,
is
it
art,
gets
yeah,
substantially better. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
but everybody stops there because they're just blown away. Like, look at these things.
Well,
coming.
you take them up Sulphur Mountain or something, and you have them look
Yeah,
around.
oh,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
It's
I
pretty
think
cool.
from Calgary all the way to Vancouver, you go through the. I know it's not where Calgary, but you go 7 hours to Kelowna. You got wineries. People don't even know from other countries that we have wine country in Canada. Like to me, Kelowna wine should be local wine. To me, it's local, even though it's not local enough, but it's not close enough. But
Oh, for here?
like,
well,
if you live in Calgary,
Notley had other takes on that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, there's always we try to help each other out, but sometimes premiers try to divide. Like, what did the premier in BC say to all the Albertans that were going there? Oh, because there was vandalism to cars. He
Yeah,
said,
they were, yeah.
just take a bus,
Yeah.
take a bus or ride your bike. Like, no, you should be like telling your people, listen, we're all from the same country.
Yeah.
How many people in Kelowna, how many people in Radium, how many people in Invermere
Yeah.
are from Alberta?
It should be a Canadian bubble.
A Canadian
actually.
bubble, yes, of course.
I'm a property owner in BC, and I've felt restriction to go to my own place. And like
it's
I want to do
horrible.
hiking. I can't as an Albertan, I can't book campsites in BC this
That's
year.
right, yeah.
Right.
And
We're at
that,
the
to
bottom
me,
part of
is-
this.
That's part of the
it's
divide.
Sad.
They
It's
want us
terrible.
divided.
Yeah.
They want us divided. I know.
They shouldn't have borders amongst our country.
No,
And BC, we're like this. I love British Columbia.
Well,
it's beautiful.
You
Yeah.
know?
where would Kelowna be if Calgary?
Well, in Vancouver, yeah, Calgary, but there's
Well,
a lot
no.
of big. Before, it was a lot of Calgary people. Everyone. Yeah.
But the East Kootenay for sure, right? Like
Yeah.
that's an Alberta Valley. You know, like there's a lot of
There's,
BC, but
there's
there's
more
a lot of
people
Alberta
own
money. there.
boats there from Alberta than from BC.
Well, Invermere, Radium.
Talking about boats, apparently boats are backordered for years.
Yeah.
They're like the hottest
Oh,
selling thing.
because people don't think they're going to travel.
There's a
So-
rule: if it flies, floats, or rent it.
yes,
But how do you power those boats? Is it electric?
they are working on that.
Okay. And the materials to build it?
It's a trolley motor.
Oh yeah, no. This is the thing that people don't think. Like, do we have organic plastic yet? Do we have organic nylon, lycra?
Yeah, we got hemp.
How far is it going to make it? Making computer cases.
Even organic food. Everyone always spends more money on organic food. You want organic food? It was my grandpa's garden.
Yeah, it's an
It's a
oxymoron.
garden.
Organic food.
Yeah,
actually,
organic
It isn't
food.
even-
You want organic? Grow it yourself. That's the most organic you're going to get, right? All right, we are back with some Cascajun Anejo. Salute.
Cheers.
Por los mexicanos, échale huevos. All right, so we tried to tell ourselves we're not going to talk about COVID, and we're not going to. We're not doctors. We're not going to talk about that part. We're going to talk about other stuff because we don't want to. We're not going to get there. We're not going to go there. But so, how did you guys keep yourself sane and normal during these COVID lockdowns and restrictions?
I started drinking.
Some people
No.
can say that's a bad thing.
No,
right?
you know what? I used to, before COVID, I used to go out. I always joked I went out 8 nights a week, and I was out a lot. And then when it started, I also had a very strict rule against drinking at home alone. Bad idea for me, I thought so. But when COVID started and things started locking down and you couldn't go out anymore, that's when I started drinking with Dan at
And you
home.
still do a great job with that.
Yeah.
But I don't go there because I'm.
Yeah, no.
I have a family. Oh, actually, my family's not here, so I'm allowed to.
You're welcome
I'm
anytime.
allowed 2 other people.
Everyone's welcome. yeah, just be 2 different people. So.
Yeah.
No, but I started doing that. But in reality, I haven't changed that much in my life. It's I don't want to be afraid of everything, and I don't want to be running around thinking the world's ending.
Fear is the path to the dark side, man.
What did you say
George
about
Lucas
fear?
had it right.
What did you say about fear, Joe, last time? But we didn't.
Fear, you can either forget everything and run, or face everything and rise.
Yes. That's a good.
And that's the thing. I didn't let fear take over me throughout this whole COVID thing. I didn't change a thing. I don't want to sound arrogant.
No, either have I. But the thing I always try to be careful of is I try to respect other people. Like my dad is a big believer. He's an older guy, right? Like, and he's afraid of it. So I think last time I saw my dad in person was Christmas Eve.
Well, we have
for
to
like
protect the
5 minutes
vulnerable, right?
before. And that's exactly it. Yeah.
We have to protect the
And
vulnerable.
You touched
But-
on that point, yeah.
But even if it's somebody who's 25 years old, if they're afraid of it,
Exactly.
I don't diminish that they're afraid.
No,
of it.
just
And-
stay away.
We're not doctors, like, so
That's
we
it.
can't. I can't say that my opinion's stronger than anybody else's,
now,
right?
Now, what my opinion would be is that maybe we protect the
vulnerable.
the ill, the vulnerable, these things, and we let everyone else live their lives. And I said this before, the $2,000 CERB. If somebody's a 25-year-old person working at a retail store or a restaurant or something, and they don't feel safe going to work, give them $2,000 a month. But let everyone stay open. Let everyone.
Yeah, but
work.
the thing is, a lot of these people that are taking the CERB or the curb are going to house parties,
yeah.
and they're not respecting that part. So, and then businesses aren't allowed to open. Well, we are, but there's restrictions,
agree.
right?
I've got this line, like, it goes good into, like, child rearing and things, but just in life in general, you got to keep tension in the rope, right?
What was that, bro?
That was background noise or something.
Oh, was it the camera's good?
It was someone in the studio audience.
Yeah.
Well, that was weird. Maybe. Wow, there's ghosts in here, huh?
Oh, now you can do ghost tours on.
I guess
Tuesday.
you said something that Siri woke
Yeah.
up Siri. Say, keep going. Sorry, brother.
No, but tension in the rope is, like, of course, I mean, if you're just going to give somebody money for nothing, they'll take it.
Sure.
It's as simple as that. I mean, what are you gonna do? Here, dumb. Here's $2,000. What are you
It
gonna
was
say?
a lot
No.
more than what they were making. at
Well,
their
maybe they
job.
made,
Yeah.
or maybe they made 2,500 and they're just, or $3,000 and they're comfortable because they
Well,
don't.
You look at the restaurant industry, and you have a bunch of back of house guys that live together. There's 3 guys, 4 guys
Yeah.
living in a house. They're paying $1,500, $2,000 in month in rent. They're getting $2,000 each. They have $6,000 or $8,000 a month. Take their rent out.
So you were saying for these COVID restrictions, you went in the backcountry lots, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I really love the mountains, anyways, and it was a place to escape. There was no mask, there was no rules, right? You just take off, and we have a story of one night, like hiking into this camp. We actually left in the evening. We got there in the dark. We got some celebrity at the campground for it because we finished work on a Thursday and just went into the bush, right? And so we got there late, set up camp, and then we got to the fire, and everybody was around this fire. It was all strangers. Nobody knew each other. And it was full, but somehow these 2 seats opened up. It reminded me of a commercial for Travel Alberta. It was really cool. And like my wife and I still reminisce about it. But we're all sitting around. Everyone's got their bush booze, right? Whatever you packed in. And it's like, it's serious stuff. You know, you're carrying weight into the bush.
Well, you took
You
Fireball
know?
instead of
And
Cascahuna.
well, now I didn't know about Cascahuna.
Now you know.
You learn every day. But I take Fireball. Fireball is like gummy berry juice, man. It just gives you a little
Yeah,
bit
of
pep
course,
when
it warms
need
you up, man.
Yeah, it warms you up.
Warms
Yeah,
you up.
you're in the tent, you're cold, whatever. So I always bring Fireball. And I take on my Fireball, and people are so cool. I'm passing it around, and everyone's drinking out of the same bottle. This is September 2020, right?
Yep.
2020, right. Right smack in the
Some
middle
people
of
might-
second wave COVID. Yeah, I mean,
Some people might watch us and think those people are murderers. Like,
well, I guess, I mean,
but I guess you do it at your own
well,
risk. If you want to go to a restaurant or you want to go out, I guess you have to do it at your own
But-
risk.
and that's what it is. You have to be willing to accept the risk you're willing to accept.
Exactly.
And, and that's why I said if somebody's deathly afraid of it, even if they're mildly afraid of it, that's their business.
Like,
And
it does
that's okay.
suck. We're not saying it's a good thing. Like, it's a
But
horrible
the thing is that I think, people are dying of it. It is serious. But the way I look at it, I think we're being sold that it's more than, for the average person, more than it is.
all I know is, I mean, I do a lot of things that are a little bit risky in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm allowed to do them, right? There's things inherently
You like motorcycles?
risky. I like motorcycles,
You like
like the
skiing?
backcountry. I like ski some pretty gnarly terrain.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some pretty heavy warnings. They're like
Yeah.
experts. I don't consider myself an expert, but the signs are heavy. And there's avalanche dangers. There's all these things that are there, right? And like you hear about the snowmobilers, like there's things happening.
Yeah.
And it's not illegal. So I find it interesting that for the rate of incident that we're dealing with in this society, they've shut down everything across the board, like non-discriminate, just shut it all down. And we know that behind the scenes, a whole bunch of other problems are creeping in now, right?
Wow.
We know domestic abuse got higher. We know
Mental
drug addiction got
illness.
higher. We all thought we all drink more, you know?
Yeah.
And some people drink too much. Like,
You got to look at it at a lot of logical thinking. They want to put these lockdowns and everything, but you want to keep these fast food chains open. That's the worst for your immune
Costco.
system. Costco. But
right.
why didn't they put the money into
Heart
these
disease still
long-term-
kills more people than COVID. Still, right?
Definitely.
And
So why-
diabetes. And
Well, there's a lot of
cancer.
comorbidities when you die of COVID as well, right? There's a lot of people that had a lot
Comorbidities, yeah.
comorbidities. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's why I'm not a doctor. Huh? No, but so what I did was, I was supposed to leave January 1st to go to Mexico to visit my wife's family, and I left December 21st. I was stressed, man. It's having it every day in this restaurant is. I love the business, and the sad thing is not being able to open properly because
that was right after you got the hard lockdown.
the second lockdown, right?
Yeah.
So then I took off. I left, and there was still the rapid testing at the airport. There was no hotel quarantines. There was no. There was. It was okay. People say it wasn't okay to travel, but it seemed to me that with rapid testing at the airport and no hotel quarantines, no PCR tests, Mexico let you in. I left. I went, and I don't regret it to this day. So we went. We had a great time, and I got to spend, I was supposed to spend 3 weeks with my son. I got to spend a little more time because I tested positive, which, I still don't regret. But I was, the thing is, what's funny is, this is my personal experience, and I'm not afraid to say it because
We've all had it.
no, my personal experience.
don't know it.
My personal experience is, we were sick in November. I had the virus in November. My son got sick. My wife lost her smell. I lost my smell for a bit. We were sick, and my mother-in-law. It's because I had to stay home in quarantine, and I got them sick. But nothing. I'm gonna tell you my personal experience. So in Mexico, why did I test positive? Then people say you can test positive up to 90 days. So I was there. I'm like, oh, we got to open the restaurant. I got back. I'm very happy I got back. And then my wife was supposed to stay till March, and then she's like, I don't want to get stuck in a hotel quarantine. So she tried to come back the 10th of February positive, tried to book the 24th of February positive, but she had the virus in November, which is, so I'm not saying the virus doesn't exist. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, how accurate are these tests, right?
I don't believe they're very accurate.
It's and you know what? But I don't regret traveling. I don't regret that. I miss my family.
I wish we could travel now.
I miss my family, but I'll never regret it because people say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have traveled." Well, that's your opinion. And when I
Well, but I don't think you should smoke. I don't think you should drink too much. I don't think you should ski. I don't think you should have a motorcycle.
Of course.
That's exactly the point.
You shouldn't go
is
rock
that
climbing.
You touched on it earlier. Like, we should just respect people's choices,
Yes.
right?
And now that you guys say that, there's a big thing is people shouldn't feel ashamed if they test positive. The other day I was talking to somebody and I said, yes, I had COVID, I think my parents had it. They didn't get tested, but my parents are in Kelowna. They just stayed away for people for 2 weeks. And the guy looked at me like I was like, and I'm like, what's wrong? I looked at the two guys. I'm like, what's wrong? And they go, well, you say it so freely. And I'm like, well, what's there to be ashamed of? We need to stop being ashamed. If you tested positive, tell your friends your experience, because it's better your friends' experience, personal experiences, than the mainstream media's agenda for their experiences.
So why do you think that stigma's on it? Because if you think about it, if you told them I was diagnosed with heart disease or I was diagnosed with cancer,
You wouldn't be afraid to say
They
it.
wouldn't have said that.
No, but I mean, how could you not? We shut the whole world down because of COVID. So
I know,
it's like,
but
it's not-
and why? Because we don't want anyone to get COVID. So if you have COVID, it's like, well,
But
this
remember when it
you
started?
literally represent the plague.
Do you remember when it started though, and there was no Project Lightspeed or whatever the American
Yeah,
thing,
Project, yeah.
and the word was everybody's going to get it. We're just trying to flatten the curve so that we
Flatten the curve.
It's
flatten
been
the curve.
58 weeks now.
Well, we had the 1 year anniversary of
Yeah.
the 2 weeks to flatten the
Yeah,
curve
yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. But they were so sure then everybody was going to get it. It was just we want to spread it out so the system doesn't get overloaded.
Yep.
All right, fair. So we went from everyone's going to get it to now, yeah, you're a pariah if you
Well,
have it.
but that's part of it because, in my mind, the idea of having to vaccinate the whole world is just interesting to me.
Well, it's not everywhere but other than Canada. It's going well everywhere else.
No, but I mean, but this drive, like they just that's what it went from flatten the curve to everybody has to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then even with statistics, you can go off these statistics, yes or no, and then you see countries like Nigeria has 220 million. I don't want to say numbers, but they have a lot of people.
It's a big country.
And they don't have that many deaths, but then they don't record them. What do you mean? Why? Just because they're in Africa, they're not sophisticated? There's places in Africa that are more sophisticated than here, man.
Well,
That's ignorant when you say they're not sophisticated.
There was an interesting report came out a few weeks ago, and it said that there was a massive correlation between the countries with the highest death rates and countries that had the highest obesity rate. And that
Comorbidities.
yes, and America, Canada, the UK, all of these countries that have a lot of obese people have the highest death rate, and that could speak a bit to Africa. You talk about Africa doesn't have as high of an obesity rate.
My theory is if you do get the virus, don't be ashamed of it. It's not your
No,
fault.
not at
You
all.
can get it anywhere, and there might be what are they called? Not breakouts. Breakouts, right? It could happen where you're
yeah.
gonna Yeah, it could happen. People can get COVID. Don't be afraid. Maybe if you are afraid, yes, keep yourself away, but don't be afraid to say you had the virus. It's not, just don't be ashamed of it. It's not your fault. It happens. I talked to a health inspector a couple weeks
Well, I don't know
ago.
if you go to Miami Beach.
You know what? I think COVID's the least of your problems in Miami.
But the stigma is don't be
I would
afraid
agree. Of
to
everything
say.
you're gonna catch, I'll take COVID.
And the thing is, it always bothered me from the beginning, and this has nothing to do with the virus. I just hate the new normal word because this shit ain't normal. Us distancing, us looking like robots, this shit ain't normal. And if you think this is normal, the new normal, no, this isn't the new normal. We're going to get over this. We're going to get out of this. And another thing that bothers me is we're in this together. Maybe me and you are in this together because you support my business. We're in this together because I'm going to help my friends. If I know somebody, if I can do a donation to the food bank to help the poor, we're in this together. But don't tell me you're a politician. We're in this together when you're getting paid. You don't know what it's like. And
Or get to fly around the world.
You
and lock everyone
you
else
didn't
down.
make the rules, right?
No.
Yeah, and they make the rules that told us not to go anywhere, and a lot of them traveled.
Oh, who was it? Was it here last week or someone else I was talking to? They said that everybody's had to run their businesses and everything on Zoom for the last year,
Right.
but
Yeah.
everybody flew to
To
Davos
Davos.
for the
Right.
big
Right.
seminar, right?
And
where's
they're
that?
still flying.
Yep.
The Americans and the Chinese just met in Alaska.
What would it be the difference right now if every politician and every
Go on curb.
corporate executive, every banker, everybody had to go on curb? and take their $2,000 a month, and they couldn't take any dividends, they couldn't take any other money, they couldn't take any payments, do you think we'd be doing this now?
No, of course not. But me, when it comes to my business, yes, I want to open my business for me and my family, but
I want you to open it for me.
but it's not even about like
second that.
people think that I'm selfish. Like I just care about my business. Yeah, I have to care about myself but in the end, if the business like the Italian restaurant, I'm not gonna closes down the street, that's not good. The other place closes. If less people are working, you need money spent in the economy for us to survive. And it's not just survival, it's called social programs. We need good social programs. So we need people to be working and paying remittance. I don't want subsidies from the government. I want to work and tell the government, get the hell out of my life. I don't want you in my life. I want the government not in my life. So all I'm saying is this isn't the new normal, and stop saying that, and we're going to get back to normal.
But is this still just part of the same creep of things being taken away from us and choices being taken away from us? Is this just an extension of that?
Well, people got to wake up and don't let it happen.
I believe there's freedoms being taken away with this whole COVID.
So there's an interesting news story this week. A bunch of Canadian airports lost international status, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like Kelowna, both airports in Saskatchewan, Victoria. I don't know what other ones.
I heard word Edmonton might even
Yeah, I'm not sure.
be on the
Well,
block
because
there.
people have to come through Calgary to come back, not Edmonton, right? At the moment.
And then there's another, so that was one story in Canada. There's another story in the States about American Airlines talking about what's going to be required for flying. And it's going to be like this, no touch anything. You could just check in with your face, right? And I remember, so I'd go to the Caribbean all the time, and I'd come in through Miami, right? First port
I
of
love
entrance.
Miami.
And there'd be this insane line, like everybody from South America going through immigration.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember they were doing retina scanning and fingerprinting of everybody. I was literally standing in this line for 3 hours. It was forever.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't want these guys retina scanning me and fingerprinting me, you know? And I get to the front, and the guy's like, oh, a Canadian, stamp, and I go on my way. And I'm like, awesome. That was then. Fast forward, what are they saying? Like, American Airlines is coming out right now and saying facial recognition for everything. Facial recognition to check in, facial recognition to check your bag, across the whole board, facial recognition. And you start to see how, like, just how 9/11 started. Like 9/11, we couldn't carry liquids, big deal. Like, it sucked, but still big
But then
deal.
you got to take it. It's whatever. If I got to take off my shoes to make people feel safer.
Well, no, you got to stand naked too, and like there's a whole bunch of weird things happen. But it got a little weirder, right? And I mean, I just question things, you know.
And you talk about American Airlines. So my family's flying back with American Airlines because now they're gonna get stuck in a quarantine hotel. It's all good. It is what it is. Yeah, I would tell you if my wife was 100% Canadian, not a permanent resident, I guarantee she wouldn't stay in the hotel, take the fine, and fight it in court later. But like everything I'm saying, it's not that I don't believe there's a virus. I'm not being a doctor. I'm just saying the way the government's handling everything. And American Airlines is making money now because WestJet can't return those people. So now everyone's flying with American Airlines. So let's hurt our industry. So let's close trips from Mexico, the Caribbean, but you can fly to the States. You can fly to Europe. You can fly from China.
You could fly to England where the variant was, you know.
Where the variant,
fly to China where the virus started.
The variant's killing
Right.
They're saying the variant's what we have to worry about, but
you know, for the last time
UK's
I
out
had
of it.
Caribbean lineage, that's like a big deal for us, right? Like they banned us from flying to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So now that we're talking about, we kind of went to how far we want to go, because I was talking about, has COVID become political? So I'm just going to, you guys decide if, after I read these statements, you guys can decide if COVID is political or not. I think we all know what the answer is. But there are many doctors that are against the lockdowns. Here are some examples of people that are against the lockdowns, but mainstream media doesn't really want to cover it. Martin Koldroff, biostatistician and epidemiologist. He's a professor of Harvard Medical School. I'm going to butcher this name. Jay Bhattacharya, director of Stanford Center of Demography and Aging. Another name I'm going to butcher. Sunetra Gupta, infectious disease epidemiologist. These are epidemiologists. Professor of epidemiology, Oxford. Dr. Scott Atlas, former medical professor, Stanford. This is just 4 people I've seen in one video in the States with talking to DeSantis. And then who's the Canadian one in Ontario?
Yeah, so there's 2 more. There's an American, Dr. Daniel Needs from the Cleveland Clinic, lost his job when he wrote an article for a paper about his lack of support for vaccines, right? He lost his job for that. And Dr. Kulvinder Gill in Ontario has been cautioned multiple times by the College of Doctors just for citing her dissatisfaction with like the need for everybody to have a vaccine, right?
So then I'll just finish with this and then we'll go in deeper. So here in Alberta, there's a doctor in Calgary, and I'm not putting his credential down. I'm not saying he's a bad doctor. We're just saying, is this political? He is an ER doctor, and he has been getting so much media time about lockdowns. He wants more restrictions, wants more masking. I don't even know if I should say. Should I say his name? Am I allowed to say his name? I don't know.
I can say it if you don't want.
But you can go on CBC, CTV, and he's in an article every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, his name's Joe Vapon. He's literally in the paper every couple weeks complaining we should not be able to open our businesses, play sports, see our families. He's he's a big donator to the NDP party, which is fine if you're an NDP. But he doesn't hide the fact that he hates our current government, and he also supports Albertans paying more in carbon tax. So the question is now, how has COVID become political? Is this a political agenda, or does this guy really feel that, like, if it was a different government, would he be saying different things? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, right? Like, why is he getting a voice other doctors aren't? Why are they censoring certain doctors and not censoring other doctors?
Exactly.
For me, this gets me dangerously close to feeling like I'm sitting in my basement with a tinfoil hat on, and I start to really worry about being that guy. But I almost wonder. It seems like a concerted effort when you go between press, government, all these agencies and everything. The press seems to have bought in. I don't know if it's the right term or not, but you're right. That report you're talking about, you won't see that on CBC. You won't see that.
Or how about the guy that called Edmonton? What was the guy that called Edmonton?
The guy from Britain.
Or somewhere he said that you can get the virus from 30 feet apart. None of this is working. Yeah. You're gonna But he got shut down right away.
The things that I always wonder, like, I understand the deal if we have as many different barriers and as many different things as we can, we're adding them up. But there's word now, even if you have the vaccine, you may still have to wear a mask. So does that mean the vaccine doesn't work?
Right.
Well, if they want to push the vaccines, they should say you should have more freedom if they actually want people.
No, that's my point,
to
though.
take
But
it, right?
Fauci was saying that
I've heard the whole line. If social distancing works, why the mask? If the mask works, why
And
the vaccine?
and I get
right?
the
If
argument.
the vaccine works, why the lockdown?
I
Masks
get.
only work for 15 minutes.
Well, no, but
Why is that?
Well, that's the other.
Yeah,
thing.
at the
You're
hospital
not
they make you
supposed to wear
change it.
that,
When Paulina had the baby,
Well, and the mask
they make
I-
you change the mask every 15, 20 minutes.
The mask I wear is like some piece of like cotton and lycra or something.
Dude, they put it in their pocket for a week. They never wash it.
Mine's in my pocket right now.
The worst part is I don't want to be rude to anybody.
You're gonna wash
Sorry,
it with your
maybe you
underwear,
maybe you forgot. That's why, because it's the new normal. But if you're driving alone in your car and you're wearing a mask, do you go to bed with the condom on by yourself?
That was the meme: is wearing a mask alone in your car is like wearing a condom when you masturbate.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but maybe me it happened. I leave the grocery store. I'm respecting people.
Are you talking about the mask or the condom?
Well, I know a story. I'm not going to name people, but they showed up at home and they're still wearing the condom when they went in bed. I don't want to go in details.
I think you forget it on. I give them the benefit. I think those poor
But there are
they
people
wear
that
a
are
mask all
paranoid.
day and
They
you
wear
forget
all-
you're wearing a mask.
Or and
I need to believe that. Otherwise, it's like, where do we live?
I was doing a bunch of
Or very
deliveries.
lazy, just don't want to take it off.
I was doing a bunch of deliveries for the brewery earlier this year, and I had to go across the street. And you don't think about it. You jump in the car. I drive across the street. I jump out of the car and I go. And I get it, but my point is, like I said, I understand the degrees of protection, and we can add these things up. But why would anybody get the vaccine if you're still going to have to wear a mask and still going to have to distance? Like, what is the purpose of it?
So now that you say that, there's a lot of my customers that are really good people. But they're wearing a mask. They respect the rules. But man, you never wore a condom all your life, man.
That's why
The protection's only one.
That's why you have 22.
Did I go too
cousins.
far? This is why it's after hours YYC.
No, but you know what? I wear a mask because it's not the 18-year-old kid who's hosting at a restaurant or something.
But
it's not their job to
But you don't want to be ashamed upon too, because
No,
people put shame on you.
I
for
wear a
not
mask because it's the rule. And like,
that's it. That's
if you live in
exactly
the society, I always say you want to do your own thing. Go live in the woods, then, right? I can subscribe. To
But
the
will
woods.
we ever get back to normal? Will masks be forever? Will
No,
masks be on
no,
planes?
no, they won't.
You don't think flying?
Nope.
Well, after 9/11, shit changed at the airports,
Yep.
right?
Well, you can't,
Oh, yeah, you'd be
you
wearing
can't bring in a
masks.
bottle of water in an airplane, but you can sure bring a
But
lighter.
you also have to remember
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
that you also have to remember things were different around the world before 9/11 too. Like, go through security in Israel at an airport. They tell you to be there like 3 hours ahead of your flight.
I like going early because I like to drink before I go on vacation. I like to go to the restaurant, and then even this is the funny thing. So I went to
go to the WestJet Lounge.
So I went to
Calgary.
Mex-
They have intercity beer on.
So I went, Inner City, great beer, man, great beer. You get the lager's great. So I went to, when we were flying to Mexico, so I'm like, we're at the airport. I forgot that, restaurants were shut down. So all the restaurants closed. They didn't do takeout. So you can go to Tim, because Tim Hortons is like, they're never going to close.
Sure.
Tim Hortons like, we're not going to close. We're going to take advantage of all these other people not opening.
Sure.
So I get food. You're not allowed to sit in the food court distance, but you can sit in the airport at the gate beside somebody.
Oh yeah.
And then they tell you social distance. Then you go on the plane. There wasn't one seat available.
There's a guy I follow
It's
on
just
YouTube.
such a hypocrite, man.
Out of
So
Russia.
stupid, man.
He's just this guy showing you everyday life in Russia, and he goes to this big mall in one of the medium-sized cities, and all the food court restaurants are closed, but they have little stands set up at the edge. Like, you know how there's always that like hard plastic wall around a food court? These guys have little kiosks set up, and you can order your food. The guy runs back to the case, gets it, comes back out, gives it to you, and then you sit in the mall and eat your food. Yeah, beside 6 other people.
I guess these people are trying to protect us, but some of this shit is ridiculous, man.
And, you were talking last week. The guy working in the bank isn't a bad guy.
Right.
But maybe the people who own the banks aren't the best people or
Right,
don't have our best
right,
intentions. I do believe Dr. Dina Hinshaw and these people, I think they are doing what they think is the best thing. I don't think that they're...
But if it affected their life in a different way, I wonder how they would think.
I would like
That's
to see accountability, though. Like the
Agreed.
reviews.
Oh, I
Like
agree.
you make your decisions today. Okay.
Agreed.
You're professional. That's why you
Yes.
have that job. Your credentials got you that job.
Yes.
Yep.
When it's all said and done, you should be held accountable
There should be
for
accountability.
everything that you said.
Yeah. Well, it's like we said earlier,
They gave her too much power, Doctor.
But you get an Uber
It's,
rating.
it's across the board, though. Every
You
province
have
has
to have
some.
that.
But you get an
person.
Uber rating, right? You get an Uber rating. Pretty soon there's going to be a rating for everything. Why can't we rate these people? We can elect Jason Kenney or Justin Trudeau, but these people get power without being elected. It's like there has to be some accountability. If you make mistakes,
Oh, I agree.
I'm not saying arrest them, put them in jail, but if I make a mistake, I lose my business, I lose my livelihood.
No, but we talked
Right?
about this earlier. Imagine if a politician or a doctor or something or a medical official came out 3 months into this and said, we made a mistake at the beginning.
Well, Jason Kenney kind of said it.
There are
remember?
some that say that, and they're getting silenced. That's
That's
the
what I'm
point,
saying, though.
right?
But imagine if that was the path that we made a mistake. We're going to go in this direction. We're going to.
Well, didn't Jason Kenney say that?
He kind of
said. He said.
backhanded it.
He said.
soft-pedaled it.
He said, "Oh, it's not coming from small businesses. We're sorry for." And then 2 days later he shuts down businesses, but then he kept the
Yeah.
malls open at 15%.
Yeah, so-
but I'm happy the malls are open. Like I'm happy
But
everything's.
that's somebody talking about both
Yeah,
sides of their
exactly.
mouth.
I don't want to see anybody close. But
I don't want to see
No.
anybody close. I'm not against any.
And you know what? The way I see it, and the way I've always said to everyone is, if you don't think restaurants are safe, don't go.
And I honestly, I'm telling you, I don't want anyone to get sick either. I
No.
pray to God that people do not get sick, and it's.
let's establish right now. I think we all agree. Like the virus is real; it will kill you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And that's what I said about
I agree with
me
that.
feeling like not liking this idea of feeling like I have my tinfoil hat on and I'm
Right.
covering the camera on my phone
But-
and stuff.
But like we said,
But
has it become
minus 30 is real. It will kill you too.
yes.
Is it illegal for me to go streaking when it's minus 30?
No.
No.
Well, actually, yes, it is.
Hypothermia there, man.
Oh, sorry.
Nudity
Sorry.
in public is
Yes.
illegal.
Maybe not streaking, but
But there's nobody stopping you from wearing a Speedo and
Right,
walking down the street
right,
when it's
right,
minus
right.
30. Maybe some mental health officials.
Touche.
maybe some girls might like that, bro.
I just had my
Not that
father-in-law
temperature.
pass away from COVID. But he did have lung complications.
Was he ill before?
Was he ill? Like he
Like,
did
has,
have
has
lung.
he's had lung problems.
He's
for-
had lung
yeah.
disease.
Condolences.
He's had,
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry.
He had lung disease. Thank you. With emphysema and COPD from smoking and working in the copper mines. But they did tell him 10 years ago that the flu will kill him.
Sure.
He caught COVID, unfortunately, which triggered pneumonia, which triggered for him to be on a ventilator for.
And he
a
wasn't
month.
even here. That's a
He
shitty
wasn't
thing.
even
He was
here.
in another
All
country.
alone.
That's
Sucks.
that's the shitty thing
The
about
shitty
like,
thing. And then there's no funerals, no nothing. Right?
Even if he was
That's
there,
sad.
though.
I know what can
I've
you do.
attended one of these virtual funerals. It's no fun.
So
And,
I-
No, it's just really-
it takes grief.
You know
and
what?
compounds.
One of the worst things is imagine sitting outside looking through a window while you watch your grandmother die
Well,
because you can't go in.
now it's through FaceTime.
well, we know.
No,
we
but
know.
that is-
my wife works in long-term care, so I have a front seat view of like
You know
that,
what's
that's
going
been
on,
her
yeah.
life. I mean, she's had to be an asshole all year because
You know what?
Dr. Dina Hinshaw told her,
My mom passed away a few years
don't let
ago.
anybody in the facility.
And I was there. I was holding her when she died. And I couldn't imagine, like, what are you going to do? Sit outside and they're going to call you or text
Yeah,
you?
even when my grandma had cancer and we were all, I was in the
Rough.
room. It was actually one of the, like, I know she died. It's not supposed to be a good experience, but it was actually one of the most humble experiences of my life. Seeing, like, being there in the room, realizing I called the nurse. I think something's wrong. My uncles came because they weren't there. My aunts were there. Me and my mom were sleeping in the room, and I don't want to make a joke about this, but my mom kept snoring. I'm like, Mom, my grandma's on her last night. Can you stop snoring? But anyways, so then and then after I'm like, Mom, I think something's wrong. And and I was in the room, and then the nurse came, and then they called my uncles, and they came, and it was like, but could you imagine? It's like she was warning me. I think you believe in a higher whatever. I believe she was warning me, like I'm. This is it. This is it. Oh. So I looked at her, and even all the morphine and everything, it's this like it makes me emotional a little bit. All the morphine and everything, it made me real. Like, I don't know if she was, but in my mind, I'm like, something's wrong. I called the nurse. They're like, yes, you have an hour. They checked her legs, right? Because she was in the hospice at the Peter Lougheed. They were amazing. They made everything so good. My dad and my aunts were in the other living room. 100%.
All the medical professionals.
But then,
thank you.
Then my uncles were at home. They drove quick. They came in. They spent 50 minutes, and she passed away. Yeah. So maybe I couldn't see my grandma dying alone because she was so afraid. Nobody likes death. And I'm afraid of it, but I don't have nothing. I'm afraid of death. She was afraid because she was afraid my grandpa was always sick. She always saw my grandpa die. She was afraid of it. And if she didn't have people with her by her side, to me, it's horrible, man. Like,
and so you bring up
you're already in the hospice. Like, what's
the social loss, right? I mean, so we talk about the COVID, and as real as it is, okay, but there's all this other baggage that's coming along with it. And so, how do you equate that, right?
Where's the balance?
How do you quantify that? Like, where's the balance? Is anybody looking at what that social loss is doing to society? Are we evaluating it? We know we're social animals. We know how important love is. Like, we've done this. The psychology is already there. These articles are already written. Like,
it's definitely desensitizing everybody to death, to losing a family member.
See, I think it might be making them hyper aware of it. I think that, like, people are so afraid of things now that before. I watched, of all places, a CBC article, and it was about UBC, and it was this younger, she was like 19 or 20. She just got prescribed antidepressants because she's sitting there. She goes, I've never been on anything, never had a problem. She's in this, and they're talking to all these people, this is the time of the year you're supposed to, or time of your life, you're making friends, you're making business connections and stuff, and they're all sitting on Zoom calls and stuff like that, and they're going literally insane. And it's...
Well, think about, we're all reminiscing about the good old days.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine your good old days was this.
Yeah.
Right? So I personally think it's the youth and the seniors that are getting rolled the hardest.
I just
right?
hope that we are. There's all these people talking about how we're heading into the roaring 20s again. This is going to be the next roaring 20s.
I hope so.
Well, what about the graduates last year?
Yeah, your daughter graduated high school.
That missed their graduation.
They didn't walk the stage. And you remember this for your life. You remember grad? You don't forget grad. Everybody remembers grad.
That's right.
Well, even me when I was younger, like I said, I used to travel for soccer, man. It was my life. It was everything to me, playing sports. And I actually got injured, to be honest. And I got injured at 15 years old. And I played, I had to stop playing till I was 19. And then I came back into it. I've never been the same. That's why, guys, I'm not professional soccer. No, I'm just joking. But
talking to us.
I'm here. But no, I remember doing what I love. And I had to stop. And it was my dreams. I played on the Alberta team. I traveled every year. I went to Germany. Like, it was everything, and stop. But it also taught me that in life, you have to... There's going to be bad times, and you have to face it. And I learned from that. Just like we need to stop patting our kids like we talked about last week. Like we need to show love, but we need to say, hey, this is the real world.
What's that
showing love might be letting them fail sometimes.
My son, I love my son.
What's that one quote? No rain, no rainbow.
Yeah, no, it's
6 deep.
But look at all these guys that are 16, 17 years old playing hockey.
Oh, if you play NW or WHL?
Yeah, like what happens? Like,
how about if you have a college, a scholarship to us? But in the States, they're still playing college sports, right?
Some schools aren't, some schools aren't, yeah. But like, what happens to that guy who knows, maybe that was the guy, that was his ticket to move on, and that's gone.
I watched something the other day,
they lose that year, they could lose everything losing that year, because there's still the whole year coming up behind them. There's still going to be that 16-year-old kid that'll be 17 next year.
I've watched something the other day, and I don't know how true it is or not, but it said that the first 7 years of your life is so important. Maybe my son's young enough. You know what? The best thing actually that he's in Mexico is that he actually just turn it on.
Mexico.
Yeah, it's a good thing that he's around family, and maybe he's living a little more normal. And I don't want to raise my kid any differently. And I remember the day I took him out of the hospital, my parents came, and they're like, can we come? And I'm like, yes, this is your first grandson. And maybe I'm not allowed to do that, but I didn't care because my son I'm going to try to raise him the best that I can. I probably won't be the perfect parent, but I don't want to raise him any different than me. And I know it's going to be different than the way we were raised because I don't think my son will be playing hockey on in Renfrew on the street, and the car's got to come and move the nets because people don't do that anymore. Do people play street hockey anymore?
I encountered something interesting actually. Just driving over here, probably like Tuxedo, like around Center Street, like this last week. A couple blocks west of Center Street, right? And then just south of 20th Ave. Somewhere around there, I was driving through the neighborhood, and there was a cul-de-sac sign. I'm like, what's going on? Like, why can't I drive
Where they've
through?
closed all the streets off there,
They closed it off. There was hockey
I
nets.
think it's 19th
They
Avenue.
closed. There was hockey nets there, and I was like, look at this.
It's like 19th Avenue and 2nd Street. I went through there the other day. Yeah.
But you have to have an official thing from the city. It's kind of like tobogganing. Like this is the world we're in. We used to find a hill and toboggan.
Yeah.
Now you can only toboggan at an approved hill.
I had no idea.
Really?
Oh, that's a thing. Oh,
Or you just show up in toboggan until you get caught.
well, yeah, but if you're breaking the law, it's like jaywalking. I mean, it's like jaywalking. You know?
But why can't you toboggan? Because it's dangerous?
Yeah, hands down, liability.
Insurance
It's a liability thing.
liabilities.
Yeah, some kid
the
got hurt.
city.
in
How did
Winnipeg.
we make it this far, man?
I remember in the '80s, we lived in Bridgeland, steep hills in Bridgeland.
So Dan,
I saw two
your
things.
80s were Dan's 60s, but keep going. Yeah.
So, my 10th birthday, I got a GT snow racer. I still remember that.
Oh, with the, you
And,
had the remote. You
Yeah,
were balling, bro.
It was
man.
legit.
I had
It
a
was
piece of
legit.
cardboard, man.
No, cardboard.
Crazy cardboard.
That's. I was gonna go low brown. I can't go there. But
Whitehorn, man.
I
We're
went
tough
so
life.
fast. I went so fast down the hill that I went into the park and I smoked my knee on the swing side. And I mean, I had bad knees for like 20 years after that. You know.
But you don't
even
regret it,
worse,
though.
there was a kid on the old school, like the sled, right?
A wooden
And he
toboggan,
went into
yeah.
the park and he smoked his head and he bled out of his head like I'd never seen in the ambulance came. But they never closed the park. We all went
I
there
did
and
that
we,
with a
all, and we
bicycle.
all learned, don't take that line. We made a name. It was a suicide line. But we made up a name and like you didn't take that line because it went to the park and bad things happened. Right?
But then
That's
now,
how the 80s dealt with problems.
But what's the two?
Fast forward to 2020.
Well, you know what, don't
Now they're
Only
eating
approved.
friggin' Tide
Only
Pods.
approved.
Aren't they eating Tide
Everything's
Pods?
bubble wrapped right now.
No, but they're bubble wrap, but they're eating Tide Pods. Are they not eating Tide Pods?
I think that was a couple of years ago.
That's a little fucked
I got a
up.
line.
I'm
I
sorry
got a
to
line
say,
for you.
man.
I got a line for you. You can either cover the whole world in leather or put on a pair of shoes.
Is it Italian leather?
No, it's the good stuff.
You know what I mean, though? Like, at what point do we take? I was gonna say it doesn't.
Yo, I thought Italian was the best leather, bro.
It looks good.